investments. They cannot afford to fail when they launch a game. If they launch a game and they bought 1,000 servers, and that game is not successful, they will have 1,000 servers that they don't need. And they will need to resell them or throw them away. Then it's a huge waste of money. And by the way, when you talk to venture capitalists and you say, my company does games, they will ask you, how much capital do you need to launch this game? And if you say, $500,000 for the infrastructure and maybe 100,000 for the marketing, what about if you tell them 600,000 completely for the marketing, because we will pay as we go. We will use utility computing, cloud computing. And if the game is successful, we're going to pay, of course, but only if the game is successful. This is another example. I think it's the last one before other things. This is a company called Animoto. Do you know Animoto? Raise your hand if you ever heard of them. 1, 2 people, 3 people. Okay. Animoto provides a very simple service. You can upload your pictures, upload your music, or pick existing music from the library, and then you create a video with animations and effects and transitions with your pictures. So it's a very nice way to create an animated video out of your holiday pictures or wedding pictures, etc. And Animoto offers 2 versions of this service. One is free, up to 30 seconds in duration. If you want longer videos or if you want high definition videos, you have to pay, $25 per year. What they did, they, started doing this. They, increased the number of users, and then in April 2008, they launched a Facebook application. So can you imagine you log in into your Facebook, and you see your nice friend that just came back from Bali or from a trip to Paris, and he publishes this very nice animation with all these pictures. And you say, oh, this is very cool, but I didn't know this guy was a tech guy. I think he was a lawyer. I think he was a marketing guy. I think he was a plumber. How could he do this nice video? And then at the end of it, you see Animoto, and you say, oh, what is Animoto? You click there, and Animoto says, you want to create a video like this one? It's free. Up to 30 seconds, it's free. So you say, okay, let me do it. So this is what happened to the number of servers that they were using on Amazon Web Services after they launched this Facebook application. They went from less than 80 to more than 3,500 servers in 3 days. And they were paying with their credit card. They didn't have a huge venture capital fund behind them. They had an Amazon Web Services account with a credit card. And of course, they were paying much more now, but they were so happy because their company was now successful. And as you can see here, they were not using 3,500 machines all the time. They were using 300, then 1,000, and then down to 400, and then 1,200, etc. They were scaling their infrastructure up and down based on what they needed in that market. This means they were also able to save money while providing a great service to their customers. And of course, there are many of these customers worldwide. In the gaming industry, we have big enterprises such as Amazon.com itself, Xerox, Virgin Atlantic, or consulting companies, or platforms, or e-commerce retailers, etc. There are companies from all verticals using cloud computing and using our services. And also in Asia, we start to see a huge momentum because many companies are now realizing cloud computing allows us to be lean, to save capital investments, and focus on our business. So this was success stories. Now, let me give you 2 examples to explain you what Amazon Web Services really is. And last talk before mine was about education, right? Let me tell you something personal for 20 seconds. When I went to school, and I think that 99% of the people here agree with me, most things were boring, right? Do you agree? Raise your hand. Okay. One of the reasons was because they were just there and saying, okay, this is Amazon Web Services. This is service number 1, service number 2, etc. That's how my teacher would do this. So I think that learning by example is actually a little bit more interesting. That's why what I will try to do in the next few minutes. So, by example, the first example is, let's imagine we have a company that does risk management. For the ones that are not into the financial industry, and I'm not either, let me explain you what risk management is. Basically, you have a company that takes money from a lot of people, like you guys, and then this company manages this money by investing in stocks, for example. And this company hires a few people that are traders, and they do trades when the stock market is open. So this company here has these traders that do all these stocks operations, but then when the market closes, they say, okay, we did a lot of operations today, and our traders did a lot of stuff with all the millions we have, but now, did we do the right thing? Are our customers happy with what we did? And risk management is the science of looking back at what you did and trying to fix mistakes if you did any, and try to predict what you should do in the future. And since you have multiple stock markets all around the world, if you are operating on the New York Stock Exchange, but you say, maybe we are too much exposed on oil or gold, you can actually do other operations on other markets to cover your exposure to make sure that you don't do big mistakes. But to do this, it's very expensive in terms of IT, in terms of the computing infrastructure that you need to do so, because you need answers in a very short amount of time. And to get these answers in a very short amount of time, you need a lot of computing. So in a traditional scenario, what you will do is buy a huge IT infrastructure, hire people to manage this infrastructure, negotiate contracts with your bandwidth providers, with the owner of the building where you run your servers, with the power company, with the cooling providers, etc. And then you will need to manage this infrastructure as well. And every 2 or 3 years, you will need to update this infrastructure. This will be an entire different business. This is not risk management anymore. This is running data centers. And this will be very expensive. So if you need to run this in the cloud, if you want to run this in the cloud instead, it's completely different because you don't need to invest money upfront. So this means that you can also save a lot of money, because if you need computing power only for a few hours a day, only on working days, you can say, give me thousands of machines for a few hours a day, and for the remaining of the time, I don't need any machine, or I need just a little amount of machines. This means that you can save money. You don't need to hire additional IT people to manage a bigger data center, but you can just keep the people that do your sysadmin stuff. And you are faster to the market, because maybe you could afford 500 servers if you bought them, but in the cloud you can easily say, you know what, 1,000 or 2,000. I will get my results in 1/4 of the time, or in a short amount of time. This is the graph that shows you what one of these companies actually does. Less than 300 servers all the time, and spikes of about 2,500, 3,000 servers when they need to do this risk management. They can get results very fast, react, and spend a fraction of the money that they will spend to run a data center. And to do this, they will use primarily 2 services. That's the teaching part of this first example. One service is called Amazon EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. And it basically provides servers on demand. The second service they will use is called Amazon S3, Simple Storage Service. So one does computations, and the other one allows you to store files and objects in a very durable way. These objects are replicated across multiple data centers by Amazon, transparently. So you don't have to worry about that. You can say, okay, I will just put my backups or my data into Amazon S3. Amazon will take care of the rest. Let me tell you another example, example number 2, which is probably closer to your business. A web startup. This could easily be a gaming startup for what matters. So this company says, we want to launch a web app or a new game. But to do so, actually, first of all, when we launch it, we want to be global from day one. But we don't know how much we're going to be successful, how many servers do we need, how much bandwidth do we need. So in a traditional solution, they will buy servers, they will buy storage, they will sign a CDN contract. CDN is a content delivery network, and I'm sure that most of you are familiar with a CDN. A CDN is essentially a way to deliver content to multiple locations worldwide, basically improving the experience of the customers downloading this content. Then you will launch the website, and then you have to manage the scaling, the provisioning, etc. That will be a pretty big effort. In the cloud, this will be completely different. You don't need to buy IT infrastructure. You can deploy worldwide from day one because you can run multiple EC2 servers or use S3 across multiple regions and multiple data centers that Amazon gives to you. You can scale up or down when needed, and actually you can also automate the scaling very easily, which means you can save time and focus more time on your business. And for this company, you will use Amazon EC2 virtual servers, Amazon S3 storage. Perhaps you would use also the database in the cloud, Amazon Relational Database Service, CloudFront, which is a content delivery, and then you would probably use the auto-scaling feature and elastic load balancing feature to automate the way that your infrastructure reacts to the number of users and downloads, etc. This would mean that your launch, your web app or your game will be much more successful, and it will be much easier for you to manage everything in the cloud. So what is unique about Amazon Web Services? What are the things that make it very special? One is flexibility, which means being able to really scale on demand and get the amount of resources that you need, together with freedom of choice. You can run Linux, you can run Windows, you can run Open Solaris, you can run Oracle databases, IBM databases, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server databases. You can basically do anything you want in terms of platforms, operating systems, and other kinds of softwares that you want to use. This means that you have a lot of freedom. And you can say, you know, I'm used to develop on Linux environments using these libraries and this specific application. You can run the same things on the cloud. We don't limit you. The second is security. We are talking about games, about animations, but security is always our #1 priority together with operational excellence. And we focus a lot on security because we want to make sure that when people use services which are remote, you cannot see the servers, you cannot keep them when they don't work. They are remote, you need security to be very, very high. And we are very focused on security. And also scale. We are huge. We have multiple data centers across multiple regions. And every data center has a huge amount of servers, a huge amount of storage. Even customers like Animoto, you know, the graph that you saw before, from less than 80 up to 3,500 servers, that is something that we can manage for several customers. This means that we have a massive infrastructure, and this means that you don't have to worry about, would Amazon be able to scale if I'm successful? Yes, we are. Look at our customers and what they do. And the pace of innovation. We continuously innovate, add new services, add new features to new services. For example, yesterday we released new features for CloudFront, the content delivery network. 2 days ago for Amazon S3. Last week, other services, other things that we launched. And actually, in a few days, there will be a very interesting announcement, but I cannot say anything about that yet. And that's a pity, because I really wish I could have a few more time. You know, if this conference were next week, that would be much more interesting. What about costs? On Amazon, you basically pay for 3 things. You pay for compute power by the hour. So one